Oh, let's go.
Cheers, buddy.
Charles Big Oz. Got my coffee.
A lovely coffee.
You got my sunshine. Round 6, Monaco.
Round 6 from the Principality.
Yep,
Monaco,
Prince Albert. As we also like to call it, follow the leader.
Yeah.
In this case, Daniel Ricciardo. Shout out to our hometown boy, Perth. Woo!
Yeah.
Fairly uneventful. As per usual? No, not really. Let's think about that. Monaco typically has your safety cars and a few things like this.
Yep.
But this time round, very quiet. So today, we're going to give you the top 5. Top 5. That's 10, Jason.
5 on each hand. We could give it 10. but it'll be
Daddies
5.
can't count. That's our next video, by the way. It's maths. So starting at number 5, we have Alonso's DNF. Lap 52.
So, lap 52, he dropped out. A gearbox issue?
Something to do with transmission, gearbox. A lot of smoke coming out of the back of that car.
Yeah.
This is really unfortunate too, because I think he was actually doing well. He was well on his way to get some more well-needed points for McLaren.
What meant to start out with possibly being a track that was going to be favourable for them for high downforce reasons, and meant that they got nothing.
Not exactly the most exciting DNF in the history of F1, but DNF nonetheless. And one of only 3 DNFs for Monaco this year. Stepping into number 4, Stoffel Van Dorn. Even middle of the race, I was speculating to Jason what was their strategy going on in here. Stoffel did come out and comment later that he felt that the McLaren team had held him back from his tyre change a little bit too long, and they did it intentionally to have Stoffel hold off Max Verstappen so that as Alonso was coming out of the pit, he could come out in front. And they could use Stoffel to hold Verstappen off a little bit longer for him.
Yeah, Verstappen was surging through the ranks at that point. He was up to around about P12. He was doing very well. So the view was that perhaps one way to secure Alonso's lead was possibly delay Van Dorn's entry into the pits, and that's exactly what happened, or at least in Van Dorn's eyes. So.
It was a situation where I think Van Dorn was possibly in the points to begin with prior to that. Ended up, of course, with McLaren getting no points. And it seems that if that was the strategy, it didn't work out for them at all.
No.
So as we step into number 3, the other 2 DNFs of the weekend, Charles Leclerc smashed into the back of Brendan Hartley, lap 52.
Homeboy Leclerc really coming out of the high-speed tunnel into the chicane there, suffering brake issues. He came out of the tunnel, there were no brakes on one side. Did his level best, didn't he, mate, to try and steer into the wall away from Hartley, but in the end, minimised damage, but took them both out.
Credit where credit's due, he did try and avoid the crash as best as possible, but there was no chance of him not hitting the back of Hartley.
Funny, the only thing you need in that corner is brakes. He just didn't have it.
Yeah, pretty much.
That was a shame, actually. First of all, let's talk about Hartley and the Toro Rossos. They were doing exceptionally well pace-wise. So that was a very unfortunate outcome for Toro Rosso. Sauber really weren't making much of a mention for most of the weekend. They were sort of sitting midfield.
And look, heart goes out to Brendan Hartley.
Yeah.
That's racing. Not having a very good year, mate.
Yeah, he's
Feel for
really
you.
not in need of that. There's a fair
Feel
bit
for
of
you.
criticism starting to emerge, a lot of whispers.
Yeah.
But look, we're not going to speculate. We're not into that. We think there's a lot of unwanted and unneeded sort
It's
of
unnecessary.
Absolutely.
I do believe that Brendan Hartley can do well. He's where he needs to be right now. Toro Rosso, you've been told. Our number 2 pick, Max Verstappen. Big crash out in P3. Didn't get to qualify. And yet, starting all the way at the back in position 20, still managed to pick up some very, very important points for his team. In a race where there was almost no overtaking whatsoever, Max made up for that in spades, all by himself.
Moving your way ultimately through to P9 as the finishing place. Great effort, credit where credit's due.
And look, arguably, I think there's something to be said that, in a way, if he had have actually qualified with Ricciardo, could there have possibly have been some kind of a incident, you know, between teammates that might have occurred on the Monaco streets? Who knows?
Whispers, Joe, whispers.
Before we get to number 1, let's talk about some mentionables. The new tyres, so now we've got Supers, Ultras, and the new pink tyres, the Hypers, which Jason and I have lovingly dubbed the Bugatti Chiron tyres, because they last
About as long.
bugger all. Bugger all.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I think that brings a good dynamic. One, now we've got some increased pace. You've got some pretty good pace on those tyres. But number 2, now brings in potentially a 3rd pit stop. You're basically now adding an element of changing your strategy to take advantage of the faster tyre. But the trade-off is more pit stops. Not necessarily a bad thing. Earlier on in the race, as it was starting, Daniel Ricciardo looked like he was intentionally bunching up the back of the pack. There might have been a strategy in there. Two things going on. Number one, the potential of bunching up the back means the top four now have to worry about the midfielders coming up and challenging their top positions. But Ricciardo was purposefully backing them up, give Max Verstappen the opportunity to gain some much needed places earlier on in the race to make it less challenging for him.
That was certainly what we were suspecting could be the race team orders coming from Red Bull early in the race. And if the results are anything to go by, and that was what had it occurred, well, it played into their hands well. It's a plausible strategy.
Not exactly race, more like pre-race. We have Lance Stroll and Williams' team not getting their tyres on in time. Things aren't going well for Williams this year. Feel really, really sorry for them. But at the same time, very clearly mid-race, you could hear Lance Stroll get on his radio and say exactly what's the point of racing.
David Coulthard came over in the commentary afterwards to quite politely say to the viewers that you've got to realise this sport is more than just two drivers. There's 500 to 1,500 people sitting both in your garage back at HQ that are working for you, you know, to be thinking that you're just not showing up on the race.
See, that's the thing, right?
Just not the right thing to be doing. And
that's the thing, right? It's a Formula One team. You aren't racing alone. But here's another point to consider as well. Fernando Alonso sitting in a very, very underperforming McLaren, and yet clearly you can see this man, this genius, outperforming his vehicle. In fact, we should make a new word in the dictionary and call it Alonso. What's the meaning of that? What's the definition of Alonso? It's outperforming your limits. And that leads us to number one. Who is it?
Has to be the Ricciardo win, right? The guy was suffering from...
And we're biased.
An MCUK power unit.
Very early on in the race as well.
Lap 18, we're understanding 20 to 25% power loss, roughly, you know, equating to circa 2 seconds per lap. I mean, that's significant.
At the very end of the race, Chris Horner gets on the radio and says to Daniel, has not been done since a Michael Schumacher. Look, having said that, could he have done it on any other track other than Monaco? Look, there's a lot of people out there that basically said it's because of the track, and yet at the same time, my answer to that is, it never looked like Sebastian Vettel was even challenging for first position anyway.
Yeah.
It was really enjoyable to watch though. Right during the race, you could clearly hear the communication between Ricciardo and his team, and they basically came over the radio and they said, okay,
switch to position something on your, and change on the blue lights, Daniel.
And that was it. And off he went.
Well done, Daniel. Come to Perth, give us some love. Red Bull recently, yesterday and the day before, need to make decisions on their engine manufacturing selection before month's end. Otherwise, they can't re-sign Daniel, apparently is the order of events they're looking at. So, critical time for Honda, critical time for Red Bull.
Beautiful city, Monaco. We'd love to go there. Hint, sponsors. Send us to Monaco. Send us to Monaco. Other than that, we'll see you all in Canada 2 weeks' time.
Ciao.
Check you out.